This is Billy Art Studio. The last version of Blender I used was Blender 3.5, and today I've decided to try the new Blender version 4.4, which was released just 18th March 2025. So right now what I'm doing here is installing the software, which is the Blender 4.4.0, released 18th of March 2025. Yes, you can get this on the Blender website. That's blender.org/download, and you can download the latest version, which is the Blender 4.4.0. So the setup has been installed. I'm going to open Blender 4.4. As you saw, I still have the Blender 3.5 because that was the last version of Blender I ever used. So we have Blender 4.4, and then it is opened. Yes, so my first time opening Blender 4.4, I have no idea of what has changed. I have no idea, so I'm about to see for myself. So we have the splash screen, which features the Blender film flow. Okay, so I'm just going to save this new preferences as the default. Okay, so this is for the first time opening Blender 4.4.0. So you can see the version here, Blender 4.4.0. Okay, so I'm just going to leave it as it is. So I'm going to click outside in the viewport, or just going to choose general. Now we have our default box, light, and then camera as usual. So this is the camera, and this is the default cube, and of course we have the default lamp or light that comes with Blender. Okay, so where do I even start? Because this looks like Blender 3.5 and I don't see any change in here. Okay, let me start from the render properties. Okay, so in the render properties we have the Eevee, workbench, and cycles, just as usual. So for the Eevee, Blender has introduced a new system, which is the ray tracing. So I think it changes the way the Eevee renders. So let me switch to render view, and I think Blender is not responding. Wow, this is serious. If you are watching this video, don't forget to give me a like and then subscribe. Help me by subscribing to my channel. Oh yes, it's back. Okay, thank you. So I'm going to text the new ray tracing system in the Eevee. So let me just bring my cube up. I'm going to press G for grab and then move the cube around. I'm going to press the Z key to snap it on the Z axis, and I'm going to press 1 to bring it up 1 matrix. Okay, that's it. So let me just add a plane, Shift A to bring the add, and then I'm going to choose a plane, and let me just scale it up. Okay, so this is what we get. This is what we get for the default Blender Eevee rendering. Default Blender Eevee rendering. So let me turn on the ray tracing and see what will happen. I have no idea of what's going to happen, so let me turn on the ray tracing. Is it on? Oh yes, yes. Okay, so I think the ray tracing mode gives it a cleaner rendering. Oh yes, a more realistic render compared to when it's turned off. So ray tracing gives us a more realistic rendering. So this is very new. I think it's similar to cycles. Okay, let me just switch to cycles and let's see what we get. Okay, so this is cycles. Let me turn on my GPU for fast rendering. Okay, so now let's compare the difference between the cycles and then the Eevee. Let me just look through my camera here and adjust my camera a little bit. Just adjust my camera a little bit. Okay, so that we test both the Eevee without ray tracing, Eevee with ray tracing, and then cycles. See the difference. Okay, so let's start with Eevee without ray tracing, and then I'm going to hit render, which is F12 on the keyboard, render image, and this is what we get for Eevee without ray tracing. So you can take notice of the shadows and uh, the shadow cast over here, how dark this place is. Same lighting settings. I'm not going to change anything. So I'm going to save the Eevee without ray tracing in the slot 1. So I'm just going to leave it here, slot 1, and I'm going to turn on slot 2 and close this and then render again, so it will go to the slot 2. So I'm going to turn on the ray tracing now, and then I hit render image. So now we have Eevee with ray tracing, so we can compare the two. So when you switch to slot 1, this is Eevee without ray tracing, and slot 2 is Eevee with ray tracing. So I am going to switch to slot 3 and render in cycles. Okay, so now we are going to switch to cycles, and for the render, I think it has, so many samples. The max samples is over 4,000, and it's just too much. I'm just going to bring it down to 500, and I'm going to render. Okay, so this is cycles. This is cycles with no settings, and I only change the samples. So now let's compare the three. Slot 1 is Eevee without ray tracing. Slot 2 is Eevee with ray tracing, and slot 3 is cycles. Now let's just compare Eevee with ray tracing and cycles. I think they kind of look very similar or the same. I mean, this is a huge improvement. I mean, rendering with Eevee saves a lot of time, and if I can achieve, or you can achieve, same results as cycles with Eevee, then I think this is massive. This is great. This is good news for all Blender users. So this is cycles, this is Eevee. I mean, there isn't much of a difference here. There isn't much of a difference. So you can achieve your great renders with Eevee now. I mean, this is so good. This is a great news for all Blender users. There isn't much of a difference between the two. You can see for yourself. So this is Eevee. This is Eevee. And this is cycles. So I think the only difference I can spot in these two is visibility of the edges. Visibility of the edges. So with the cycles, I think I can see this edge here. I can see this edge here, but I think with Eevee, it's barely visible. I mean, I can't see it at all. I don't know if you can see it. You can let me know in the comment section. You can let me know in the comment section. So cycles, yes, I can see some edges here, and then Eevee, the edge here is not really visible. But comparing the shadows to, okay, let's compare the shadows. So this is Eevee. Now let's turn to cycles. The shadows, I mean, they look quite the same. I mean, looking at the ambient occlusion down here. I mean, everything looks kind of the same, right? I mean, so give it up to developers of Blender for introducing this new ray tracing to the EV. It's going to make work lots easier for especially those with lower specs machines. This is it. Tell me what you think in the comment section. If there is something new, myself, I am about to explore Blender to know a lot of changes regarding to this new update, Blender 4.4.0. Like I said, I've been using Blender 3.5 for a while, and I tend to stick with Blender 3.5 because I don't know, I just like using Blender 3.5. But I think from now on, I am switching to the new updates, which is the Blender 4.4.0, which was released on March 18th, 2025. So give it a try. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Give me a like, help me by subscribing to my channel.